Can comedy heal the hurts of life? You heard me. We're going to bring on a special guest, Malcolm. He's our special Patriot guest, being in our living room, virtually per se, that will share how to heal through laughter and beyond. So I'm going to bring him to the stage and he's going to answer that question. So you have to stay to the end if you really want to know if can comedy heal the hurts of life. Hey, Malcolm, do I have you?
You have me.
Yeah, so I thought that was a very interesting premise that we talked about on Facebook and Messenger and everything else. So, how did the journey go over and begin for you in comedy?
Well, the journey for comedy specifically was I was born in the backseat of a sports car, a little tiny sports car. My mom was traveling to the sports car to take it to the hospital, and when I was ready, out I came. So I was born in the back of this sports car, back seat. And my father said I was very lucky because I was born and conceived in the same place.
Oh, God.
So I know. Basically, I was not only was I born in the sports car, but the entire neighborhood was watching. So I was born on stage. I started off on stage and I started off laughing and wanting to make other people laugh and enjoying that. And then there was a detour, which we can talk about later. And then I picked it up again in college. It's when I picked up comedy once again, and in fact decided then to start the journey to becoming a stand-up comedian. And so it fit in my life, it fit everything I did. And to go back very briefly, and not to spend a lot of time on this story yet, but I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and comedy was the one thing that helped me break out of that trauma and share my life and my gift with my audiences. So from there, it was just, you know, building a comedy career and whatever else that entails.
So basically, your life was a joke when you first came out, and now you went over and went through some trauma, and then you on decided that like I'm going to use that comedy to go over and to heal. So
Yep.
how does a comedian build that champion mindset? You're making jokes of your life or making jokes of situations and whatnot. But how do you go and stay resilient? Because sometimes we do self deprecation and we beat ourselves up in the comedy world. So, how do you keep it to a champion mindset more to a self deprecation?
Well, what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to take the word comedian out of the question for a moment, because a lot of people, they think about that question and they think, well, I'm not a comedian, therefore that really doesn't pertain to me. And that is not true at all. So my title is the anti-bullying comedian. I talk about anti-bullying. That is my passion. Um, and becoming a champion is that is yet another one of my passions. And I don't think of it as a comedian becoming a passion or becoming a champion. I think of me becoming a champion, or you, or a lot of our veterans who are coming back, a lot of our first responders who are champions at work. However, when I think of champion, I think holistically. And so, yes, you're a champion at work. Yes, I'm a champion as a comedian when I do comedy, whatnot. Yes, I could be called a champion, but I'm thinking a holistic champion. That all comes from mindset and having the right mindset. Um, champions, I learned off. So let me now go back to one of the traumas from my childhood. When I was 9 years old, I had a disease, virus known as Reyes syndrome. And Reyes syndrome is a virus, it's a very deadly virus that attacks the brain and liver cells, and often very quickly they expand until they explode. In my case, I was lucky. I fell into a coma in 24 hours, fell into a coma. When I woke up from that coma, I was bedridden. I had lost the ability to walk and talk. It took me a lot of work, a lot of determination to be able to walk and talk again to a point. And then one of the things that I loved to do before my illness was run. And I always attributed a champion as a winner. In fact, that is a definition. If you look up champion in some places on the internet and whatnot, you'll find that it's defined as someone who wins, a lot, a winner. And that is not necessarily what a champion is. I found that out. A champion can be, you can lose and still be a champion. Scoreboards don't determine what a champion is, they don't define being a champion. Determination, discipline, and distance define champions. And so, as long as you develop a mindset of uh, of um, becoming a champion, or being a champion, it all starts with the correct mindset. You have to get into the mindset of, this is who I am. I might not, other people might not see me as a champion yet. That doesn't matter. I see myself as a champion. I define myself as a champion. That's where it's got to start. And then after that, that's what builds the determination, and from that, the discipline of going to the track, whatever your skill set is, doing comedy every day, the discipline of doing that comes into play. And then it's the distance that the determination, us keeping the determination throughout all the no's, throughout all the rejection, throughout all the hate that other people are going to throw your way. That's what defines a champion. So, hope that answered your question.
I think it answered both our questions, because of the sickness that you went through and all the stuff you went through. You probably were picked on as a child to deal with that. And then you had to build this mindset or even identity, because that carries even deeper, to go over and to have that. And then you're using comedy as that mindset. So how do you go build it? You go over and deliver it in a funny way. It goes over and brings healing, brings release, and then goes over and then challenges the negative mindsets and identities that we have. So, with that, because it's important to have resiliency, it's important to have grounding is key. And you went through that traumatic event, going into a coma just like that, and then not knowing how to walk and know how to talk and going through that process again. I know myself, I had to learn how to walk again about 7, 8 years ago. Mine was more abrupt in the back. Yours is more abrupt, just happened. So we both have gone through trauma, but we both had to be resilient and have grounding. But what if I don't have that? Is it important to have resiliency and grounding to deal with those traumas in life? Or do I just go over, can I deal with it in a different way?
It is important to be grounded. It's important to be grounded. All your resiliency and all of, so a lot of people think, well, I've got to have resiliency. And the way that you just described it, it's something that you have. It's not, and I don't think of it as a tangent item. You know, I don't describe being resilient in that way. So no, it's not something that you need to have. You do need to establish, and then I'm sorry, I'll get away from need to, because you don't need to do anything. Uh, I'm of a very, very firm belief of the power of choice. We all have choices that we make. Everybody. We chose to go into the military. We chose to be first responders. We chose to be a comedian. We chose to be a podcast host, right? These are all the choices that we're making. We make choices along the way every day. We make microscopic choices. So there is no must, there is no do, there is no absolute. In fact, going back to bullying, which is what I do, what I talk about a lot, I do talk about external bullying and internal bullying. So my internal bullying started a lot when I was young, and I really think that almost everybody has an internal bully. It is something that many of us deal with. Anyone who has ever thought of, been depressed, they've thought of, or even attempted suicide, there is a definite internal bully there. And so my internal bully, like most of us, start when I was very young. In my case, it started when my parents got divorced. So even before my illness, and then my illness just expanded that. So not only did I have the external bullying to deal with, but now I had my internal bullying. And the internal bullying, what I mean by that, let me define that. That is the thoughts, but distorted thoughts, and any thought, any distorted thought that has an absolute to it as well. So, for instance, if you're turned down from a job, then having a voice tell you, well, you're not good at that, you'll never get a job in that industry. I don't even know why you're trying to work in that industry. You're nothing like that. You can't do that. That is the voice of the inner bully. That's what I'm talking about. And it's that inner bully that we need to, the only way to recognize that inner bully and to distance ourselves from that inner bully is to be grounded. So being grounded is something that people should do. You should always be grounded. Um, and find a grounding, and that's very difficult. I'm saying it like it's a very easy thing to do, but it's not. It's a very difficult thing to do, especially for our people who've dealt with trauma and who deal with trauma every day, like the military, our veterans, and our first responders. They're dealing with trauma, and so for them, grounding and the thought of grounding is a very important idea to understand, and through that, then resiliency grows from that. So
it sounds like it's the exact opposite. So resiliency comes out of grounding. I go through a negative trauma. I go start saying negative thoughts to myself, which is internal bullying. I do the you are statements more than anybody else because the average person has 70,000 thoughts a day. You don't hear 70,000 quotes from that external bully, but you come home to that living room and in your bedroom and you're beating yourself up and you become that. So you now build a mindset and an identity which is negative, which can go over and destroy us, if I'm summarizing it right. And if we're not grounded in truth of who we really are, instead of what we think or what we have been told, that sounds like the traumas basically become the identity of our lives. So with that, if I'm that child or adult that's been bullied either externally or internally, because externally it sometimes stops. Sometimes as an adult it keeps going. You just have that persona that it carries, or you have those negative toxic work environments. Right. Or you were a child going and deal with it. Like, what would you give them as like the first step to go over and to either stop that external bully or even our own internal bully?
So I have a 3-step process, an overall 3-step process in dealing with bullying, period, and establishing atmospheres for bullying, whether it's external or internal. And it is the GEL method, GEL method. And so the G stands for gratitude. It's very important to recognize so you're establishing a positive mindset. And so it's very important to be grateful for what you have. And I understand, trust me, there are people in the audience that have gone through and go through much different traumas than I have ever thought of in my entire life. And so gratitude might seem like it is it's less important to you, or it might seem like it's not an answer for you, and yet it is. That it's all got to start from that mindset, that establishing that positive mindset and being grateful and having affirmations, for instance, that you repeat to yourself, that is helping to establish that. So gratitude is the first one. Then of course there's the exercise. Exercise is very important. Our bodies, it's very, very important to move our bodies and to recognize where we hold trauma. A lot of us that deal with trauma all the time hold trauma in a particular part in our body, whether it be our throats, whether it be our stomach, our hips, wherever our knees, wherever that we hold that trauma. Understanding our bodies is something that we learn through exercise, through moving our bodies, through waking up our bodies. And not only that, but when we move our bodies, we get a lot of the physiological benefits of just opening up our bodies and increasing our oxygen intake. That is so important. Breath is really the basis of life. It's the basis of human life. So whenever anyone is experiencing any sort of emotional trauma, breathing is the very first step. That's the very first thing that you should do. So anyway, I got off track there. But going back to exercise, so you're bringing in the body, you're increasing the oxygen, you're establishing the oxytocins and the endorphins into your brain. So that's clearing everything out. So now you can focus. And so that's the power of exercise. Laughter is the very next thing. Now, when we're talking about comedy, we're using the word comedian. And yes, I am a comedian. I was a stand-up comedian. I left and I'm actually transferring back. I'm starting that up again. But comedy and humor are different from laughter. So comedy and humor are these man-made things, systems that we create in order to elicit laughter. The pure reaction of laughter shares a lot of the same benefits as exercise does. A lot of the same endorphins, a lot of the same physiological benefits. And a lot of people think that, well, I can't laugh unless there's something funny, right? And they get into that mindset. Well, that is not true at all. Think laughter yoga. Think, where we get together and we take the breathing exercises that one may find in yoga, and combine that with laughter exercises. So, and this is artificial laughter exercises. So, for instance, one is just laugh for 30 seconds. 30 seconds, just laugh. Just continue that for 30 seconds. That's a very basic laughter exercise. And so, yes, that's artificial, but one, we're getting the same physiological benefits. Two, that artificial laughter can, if we do it long enough, eventually turn into genuine laughter. And so now, not only are we getting the physical benefits of laughter, but now we're also getting a lot of the emotional benefits of laughter. So another very short story is that for me, another trauma was there was one time in my life that I actually thought of committing suicide. I got to the point to where I had the razor blade and I was about to slit my wrist, and it was laughter. And I wasn't laughing at anything. There wasn't anything funny, but I was just laughing. First, it was artificial, and then it became genuine laughter. And that genuine laughter, it established this atmosphere of it's okay. It's not as bad as I thought. I am powerful. I can go ahead and find a way out of this. There is a way out. And that's what saved my life at that point. So, GEL, GEL, gratitude, exercise, and laughter. That's how we establish a bully-proof atmosphere.
I think that's really good because we have either that external bully or that internal bully that goes over and beats us up. And when you think about the brain, there's like four main chemicals you need. You need dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and epinephrine. That's like called dose. Yes, we can buy everyday dose and buy that coffee brand, but maybe people can't afford that brand and they can do things that are free. Is finding the things that we're grateful, getting regular exercise, and also laughing. All things that are pretty much free that we can give our same dose to ourselves each and every day. I like that because you don't have to do a $27 a month subscription. I mean, I've tried it for my son. It's not a cheap subscription. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but those are the things that we can do first and on the regular. So no matter if we have our drinks, we have our products or not, that's something you can always carry with you. So I really like that. I was trying to look online to double check the acronym so I could type it in before you said it. Oh yeah, it was not there, but I caught it. That was good.
Okay.
So from there, why did you go over and start serving the veteran and first responder community? Because it's a unique community, number one. And number two, usually patriots stay in patriots lanes and veterans stay in veterans lanes. So what made you go over and connect with us, but also connect with the veteran and first responder community?
Well, that all started with my career, actually, my career coaching, career coaching. My career coaching career. um, I worked as I worked in the employment development department for the state of California uh, for a while. Had a 20-year career, and I ended that with um, career advising and career coaching. And I especially liked and wanted to serve veterans um, because they made the choice to go into the military to help help save or protect our nation, and then they come back, and oftentimes veterans are not they're not thought of as champions. They're not treated like champions. The government doesn't treat them like that. It is when it comes to looking for work, veterans are still in the military mindset, right? So now it's helpful for them, and I wanted to help them take what they know in the military terms and transfer that into the civilian life and go forth and thrive with that in civilian life. So I wanted to be a force, a helping force for veterans, specifically who, could help turn them and set them on the right path in order to thrive in as a civilian as they've thrived in the military. And for first responders, I mean, it's very similar. It's very similar to my entire mindset approach with entrepreneurs, uh, or educators, establishing that atmosphere. And that's because of my background in psychology. I am very attuned to trauma and working with trauma in different ways. And um, who better to help than the people that experience trauma the most, which are the military, the veterans, and then the first responders who could have trauma every day, multiple times a day.
That is 100% true. That's why we adopted first responders. I'm a veteran myself. I'm still doing military duty. And it was literally due to a motorcycle accident that happened in front of me in Scottsdale, Arizona. And the guy didn't have a helmet on, but, different states, different laws. But the car, the truck, hit that motorcyclist head on. And then became that first responder. And then somebody was running down the street, and he was a true first responder, and he took over. And when I sat there doing the report, I'm like, I just realized, I'm like, our EMS, our first responders, our police, they're always on call. Us as veterans, we go on call when the nation goes over and needs it. But when I get off at 5 or whatever time I get off, it's not like I'm on call unless the nation gives a call. They're on call for their whole entire community. They can't even, like in a restaurant, if they yelled medic or cop or anything else, they're not going to sit there and like, hey, I'm off the clock. I'm not going to help anybody. So we saw them as like, yeah, we want to support them too. So that's very much great that you saw the heart of that, because California is a big veteran state. So that's really great that you're going over and supporting our community. Now, let's talk about your current mission, your current community. So what is your current mission with this anti-bullying and everything else? And there'll be a link in the chat. And then how can we connect with you? And then we're going to close the credits. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, currently I've devoted this phase in my life to helping individuals. And a lot of people think bullying, the first thing they think of is schools and education. And yes, I want to work with schools. I also want to work with corporations. And then coming from that, I also want to work with the bullying that almost all of us deal with. So outside of the schools or the corporations, most of us deal with bullying, and so I want to devote my life, the rest of my life, towards speaking and helping out with that. I have brought to you, for your audience, I've brought a little giveaway, just a free giveaway. It is just 5 steps that you could use towards defeating or the inner bully. So 5 steps that you could use to defeating the inner bully. I talk about that a little bit more, what those 5 steps are. And essentially, that's the rest of my life, and that's my focus. Now, at the same time, and it has grown out of that focus, is the power of laughter. So I'm a comedian. I was born a comedian. That's who I am. I'm funny. I want to be funny. I want to spread my humor. That's who I am. That's what I am. I also now talk about the power of laughter, and I specifically help speakers add more humor and creativity to their speeches. Again, to better utilize the power of laughter. So those are the two biggest passions of my life that I am going to end my life on earth with. So again, you can have that link. That link is going past right below me, right down there. It's that how to defeat your inner bully. Also, if you ever have any questions, you can contact me at info at malcolmgrissom.com. And that, of course, is my website, malcolmgrissom.com. So info at malcolmgrissom.com is for any questions for me. So that is that. I would love to leave your audience with one last thought, and that is every step is a victory. So if you're a first responder, that's great. And so sometimes you may recognize it or may not. And when I say first responder, I mean someone who actually works as a first responder, not the first responder that you defined. You defined yourself as a first responder, as someone who was on the scene, who responded first and tried to help out until the first responder was able to take over. So you may not be a first responder, you may not fit that definition, that working definition, but every step matters, whether it's forward, backward, sideways, it all is a victory. It's simply because when you look at it, you might want to go forward, and so you think of a back step as failure, but it's not. Think of physics. Whatever goes back must go forward. Whatever goes to the side must go to the other side and will eventually go forward. So every step is a victory.